I still remember the day my family traditions meant something to me. Growing up, birthdays were sacred in our household, at least. That was what I thought. My father always seemed to have an iron grip on our lives, while my mother just nodded along. Then came my 30th birthday, when instead of cake, I got kicked out over refusing to abandon my career dreams. The strangest part, now that I have made something of myself, suddenly they want back in my life and my home. Before I dive into how my family tried to steal what I built after throwing me away, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you have ever had to rebuild your life from scratch. Family dynamics run deep, and in my case, they carved permanent grooves into my understanding of love and loyalty. My father, Harold, was the unquestioned authority in our household. A self-made businessman who built a modestly successful construction company, he viewed the world through a lens of legacy and control. Every dinner conversation eventually turned to the family name and what we stand for. For Harold, the future was predetermined. His children would join and eventually take over the family business. My mother, Diana, was his perfect counterbalance, quiet where he was loud, gentle where he was harsh, but ultimately ineffective at protecting us from his domineering ways. She mastered the art of conflict avoidance, often disappearing into another room when tensions rose. Her silent acceptance taught me early that standing up to Harold meant standing alone. Then there was my older brother Jackson, the golden child, who embraced our father's vision without question. 3 years my senior, he shadowed Dad from an early age, wearing miniature work boots to construction sites and parroting his business philosophies by high school. His compliance earned him constant praise, making the contrast with my choices even more stark. My younger sister Abigail developed a different survival strategy. As the baby of the family, and the only girl she became, the peacemaker swooping in with a joke or distraction whenever family gatherings grew tense. "Lucian, maybe you could just try it for a summer," she would suggest when Father and I locked horns about my future. Her intentions were good, but her mediations often felt like betrayals. And then there was me, Lucian, the middle child who never quite fit the mold. While Jackson played with toy construction equipment, I was dismantling computers and building basic programs by age 12. My room became a tech sanctuary that my father rarely entered, calling it that junk collection whenever he referred to my passion. The first major clash came when college application season arrived. Harold had already reserved a spot for me in the business administration program at his alma mater, conveniently located just 30 minutes from home and the family company. "Dad, I got accepted to MIT for computer science." I announced one Sunday dinner, the acceptance letter burning a hole in my pocket all week. The clatter of silverware stopped. My mother's eyes widened in that familiar, "please not now" expression. Massachusetts. He said it like I had suggested moving to Mars. That program costs a fortune for what? Playing with computers, the business degree is practical. Computers are a hobby, not a career. Despite his objections, I went. The compromise was that he would pay for the equivalent of what the business degree would have cost, and I would cover the rest with scholarships and loans. Those 4 years gave me my first taste of freedom, though holiday breaks remained battlegrounds. My graduation should have been triumphant. Instead, it became another showdown when I announced I had accepted a position at a promising tech startup rather than returning home to join the family business. "After all, we have sacrificed for your education. This is how you repay us," Harold thundered at what should have been my celebration dinner. "That startup will collapse within a year, and then what? You will come crawling back anyway." But the startup did not collapse. In fact, over the next 7 years, I worked my way up from junior developer to lead architect. Each promotion or achievement was met with dismissive comments at family gatherings. "Digital stuff. It comes and goes," my father would say, waving his hand. "Brick and mortar. That is what lasts." Jackson would smirk, sharing looks with our father. "How are those stock options working out?" Our company profits are tangible, brother. Even my successes were framed as poor choices. My mother would pat my hand and say, "As long as you are happy, dear," in a tone that suggested I had chosen to live as a street performer. Despite the tension, I maintained the tradition of family birthdays. In our household, birthdays had always been the one time when even my father softened a bit. The birthday person chose the menu, received thoughtful gifts, and for one evening was the center of positive attention. That all changed on my 30th birthday. I had just received news of a substantial promotion that would make me one of the youngest senior executives at my company. Finally, I thought something even my father could not diminish. I bought a bottle of expensive scotch as a peace offering and drove to my parents' suburban home with genuine optimism. The moment I walked in, I sensed something was off. The traditional birthday banner was missing. No aroma of my favorite meal wafted from the kitchen. My mother hugged me too tightly, her smile not reaching her eyes. Jackson sat in the living room with a strange smugness, while Abigail could barely meet my gaze. "Son, have a seat," my father said, gesturing to the dining room table where documents were spread out instead of place settings. "We need to discuss the family future planning." Confused, I sat down, the bottle of scotch still in my hand. "I thought we were celebrating my birthday." "I actually have some great news to share, too." "This is more important than cake," he replied dismissively. "Jackson is taking over as president of the company next month, and we need all hands on deck for the transition." The next hour was a blur of my father outlining his grand vision, which prominently featured me quitting my job to become Jackson's right-hand man in the family business. The promotion they offered would be a significant step down from my current position, both in responsibility and compensation. "Dad, that is impossible. I just got promoted to senior executive. My career is taking off." "Playing with computers is not a career," he shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "This family built something real, something you can touch. It is time you grew up and accepted your responsibilities." For 30 years, I had tried to maintain peace while carving my own path, but something in me snapped that evening. "My work is every bit as real as yours," I said, standing up. "I have built systems that help thousands of businesses operate more efficiently. What I do matters whether you understand it or not." My father's face darkened. "If you walk out that door without signing these papers, you are choosing your little computer games over your family. You will no longer be welcome here." I looked to my mother, whose eyes were fixed on her lap, to Jackson, who was practically gloating, to Abigail, who mouthed, "Just sign it," with pleading eyes. "I am not signing anything," I said quietly, "and this is not how you treat family." "Then you are not family," my father replied coldly. "Your things are already packed." Sure enough, when I walked outside, 3 cardboard boxes sat on the porch containing childhood mementos my mother had kept in my old room. 30 years of existence reduced to 3 boxes. As rain began to fall, I loaded them into my car, the unopened scotch bottle rolling around on the passenger seat. My 30th birthday, and I had been disowned for the crime of building my own successful life. The weeks following my expulsion from the family were the darkest of my life. My friend Tyler took me in without question, offering his pull-out couch and a sympathetic ear, but I could tell my presence was straining his small apartment and smaller patience. "You can stay as long as you need, man," he assured me, stepping over my boxes for the 20th time that week. But the tightness around his eyes told a different story. Depression settled over me like a weighted blanket. Despite my professional success, I felt utterly worthless. If my own family could discard me so easily, what did that say about my value as a person? I began showing up late to work, missing deadlines, staring blankly at code that once energized me. "Lucian, is everything okay?" my supervisor Janice asked after I botched a presentation to key stakeholders. "This is not like you." I mumbled excuses about personal issues, but I could see my reputation eroding. 7 years of exceptional work threatened by this tailspin. The wake-up call came unexpectedly on a rainy Tuesday, when I spotted an elderly homeless man huddled in the doorway of my office building. Something about his proud but defeated posture, the way he clutched a tattered photo album to his chest, even as he shivered, reminded me hauntingly of my father. For a moment, I glimpsed a possible future, becoming so rigid in my pain that I ended up alone, clutching memories while the world moved on without me. That night, I created a spreadsheet. Column A listed every penny I needed to survive independently. Column B outlined an aggressive savings plan. Column C contained career milestones I needed to hit to recover professionally. The next morning, I arrived at work an hour early, showered and focused for the first time in weeks. My tiny studio apartment came next. A fifth-floor walk-up in a neighborhood my mother would have deemed transitional at best and terrifying at worst. The bathroom sink doubled as the kitchen sink, and mysterious noises kept me company at night, but it was mine, paid for with my own money. I learned to cook to save money, starting with spectacularly failed attempts at pasta that even the garbage disposal protested. I fixed my own leaky faucet using YouTube tutorials. I built my own furniture from discount store kits, each completed piece, a small victory in my new self-reliant life. Small milestones accumulated. The first month I paid all bills on time. The first work project I completed ahead of schedule post-crisis. The first holiday season I spent alone watching Christmas movies with grocery store sushi instead of my mother's traditional turkey dinner. Each milestone hurt, but each one made me stronger. The professional breakthrough came unexpectedly. Working with healthcare clients, I identified a critical gap in patient data management systems. Current software forced medical professionals to navigate multiple platforms, wasting precious time and creating dangerous information silos. We could build something better, I told my boss during our weekly one-on-one. An integrated system that brings everything together seamlessly. Not our market segment, she replied without looking up from her laptop. Too specialized, too much development cost. Most people would have dropped it. The old Lucian might have. But the new Lucian, forged in family rejection, had learned that sometimes you have to create your own path when doors close in your face. Nights and weekends became devoted to building a prototype. My studio apartment walls disappeared behind whiteboards filled with flowcharts and code snippets. I slept less, coded more, and slowly watched my vision take tangible form. Finding an investor was the hardest part. 57 rejections piled up before I met Maria, a former hospital administrator turned venture capitalist who immediately grasped the potential. Healthcare tech is drowning in bloated, siloed systems, she said, actually using my exact terminology from the pitch. Your solution addresses real problems I faced every day in administration. How much do you need to get started? With Maria's seed funding, I quit my job and launched Next Gen Solutions. The first 6 months were terrifying. No safety net, no regular paycheck, just burning passion and determination. Our first client, a small regional hospital, took a chance on us largely because their chief of medicine had worked with Maria previously. If this fails, I am unemployable. I told my first employee, a brilliant developer named Zach, who left a cushy job to join my risky venture. If this fails, we will build something else, he shrugged, but it will not fail. He was right. That first installation led to 3 more, then 10, then dozens, as word spread about our intuitive, integrated system. Within 18 months, we had 20 employees and were turning away clients because we could not scale fast enough. Throughout this period of professional rebirth, I was also slowly rebuilding my personal life. Zach became more than an employee. He became my first real friend since the family rupture. He introduced me to Amara, our user experience designer, whose unflinching honesty and loyalty taught me that relationships could exist without manipulation or conditions. You have serious trust issues, Amara told me bluntly, after I questioned her motives for the 3rd time when she offered to help me move to a better apartment. Not everyone is your father. Some people just want to help because they care. Her words stung, but she was right. Slowly, I began accepting small kindnesses without immediately looking for hidden agendas. I started therapy initially just to improve my leadership skills, but quickly realized I needed to process the family trauma I had been carrying. Your father conditioned you to believe love is transactional, my therapist explained, that you are only valuable when useful to him. That belief system does not just disappear because you intellectually reject it. Dating was the final frontier. After several awkward attempts, I met Sophia at a tech conference where she was presenting on cybersecurity. Brilliant, direct, and perceptively kind, she saw through my defenses immediately. "You keep waiting for me to demand something impossible," she observed on our third date. "I just want your company and honesty. That is it." Over Sunday, brunches and long walks through the city, Sophia helped me recognize what healthy connection felt like. We built traditions of our own. Thursday night takeout competitions to find the city's best dumplings, monthly technology-free weekends, exploring nearby towns, creating ridiculous backstories for strangers in coffee shops. As the company flourished, I maintained a surprisingly modest lifestyle. While some of my tech colleagues splurged on luxury apartments and sports cars, I remembered those desperate days on Tyler's couch too vividly to take financial security for granted. My first significant purchase was a reliable, practical car. Nothing flashy, just dependable transportation that would not leave me stranded. Next came a rental in a safer neighborhood with actual separate rooms and appliances from this decade. But the real dream was a home of my own, not just an apartment, but a house with permanence and roots. I saved aggressively, living well below my means, while the company continued its upward trajectory. After 2 years of searching, I found it, a charming craftsman-style house in a quiet neighborhood with a dedicated office space for late-night work sessions and a backyard perfect for weekend barbecues. The day I signed the mortgage papers, I felt a sense of accomplishment deeper than any business success. Moving day was a community event. Zach and Amara coordinated an army of helpers from the office. Sophia organized the chaos with military precision. By evening, when pizza and beer appeared for the tired crew, my house had begun to feel like a home. To new beginnings, Sophia toasted raising her bottle in the backyard as fireflies began to appear. Looking around at these people who had chosen to be in my life, who expected nothing but reciprocal caring in return, I finally understood what family could and should be. The article in Boston Business Journal caught me by surprise. Local tech entrepreneur revolutionizes healthcare data management, read the headline above a photo of me standing awkwardly in our office. The journalist had captured our company's rapid growth and innovative approach, even calling me one of the region's most promising young business leaders. 2 days after publication, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Lucian, it is Abigail." I saw the article. "Can we talk? I miss you." My finger hovered over the delete button. 2 years had passed without a single word from any family member, not even on birthdays or Christmas. Why now? After consulting with Sophia and my therapist, I agreed to meet Abigail for coffee at a neutral location. Walking into the cafe, I barely recognized my sister. She seemed smaller somehow, her previously bubbly personality dimmed. "You look good," she said, studying me over her latte. "Success suits you." "What do you want, Abigail?" I asked, keeping my tone even. Her eyes welled with tears. "To apologize, I should have stood up for you that night. I was a coward." She proceeded to outline the family's struggles since my departure. The construction company had hit hard times when a major development project fell through. Jackson had apparently made several risky investments that backfired spectacularly. Father's health had declined with high blood pressure and a minor heart scare. "They would kill me if they knew I was here," she admitted. "But I think about you all the time." Despite my reservations, I agreed to limited contact with Abigail. We would meet occasionally for coffee text about neutral topics, but my boundaries regarding the rest of the family remained firm. That changed when Jackson showed up unannounced at my office a month later. Security called. "Your brother is in the lobby." My assistant informed me, looking confused. "I did not know you had a brother." Seeing Jackson in my corporate environment was jarring. He looked both out of place and irritatingly entitled as he surveyed our modern office with barely concealed judgment. "Little brother," he greeted me with a salesman's smile. "Quite the operation you have here. Very digital." Over an uncomfortable lunch, Jackson alternated between backhanded compliments about my company and subtle hints about the family's financial situation. "Dad always said you would make something of yourself." Eventually, he offered as if this somehow erased years of dismissal. "He has actually been following your progress. Quite proud in his way." "Is that why no one contacted me for 2 years?" I asked. Jackson waved dismissively. "You know how stubborn island pride gets in the way. But family is family, right? Blood is thicker and all that." As the meal ended, he finally reached his point. "We should talk about ways to collaborate. The family business could use some modernization. Your expertise, our established market presence, makes sense." I made non-committal noises and escaped as quickly as possible, but the family incursion had begun. My mother called the following week, her voice breaking, as she begged for reconciliation. "Your father may never admit it, but he misses you terribly. We both do. Can we not put the past behind us? Family should not be apart like this." The pressure culminated in an invitation to dinner at my parents' house, the first since that fateful birthday. Sophia warned me against going. "This timing is suspicious," she pointed out. "They ignored you when you were rebuilding, and now that you have something valuable, they suddenly want reconciliation. They are still my family." I replied, though her words resonated uncomfortably. "I need to at least hear them out." Walking into my childhood home was surreal. Everything looked the same. The familiar furniture, the family photos still displaying, forced smiles from mandatory portrait sessions, even the smell of my mother's signature pot roast. The welcome I received was disconcertingly warm. My mother hugged me tearfully. My father clapped my shoulder with gruff affection. Jackson was uncharacteristically deferential, and Abigail beamed with apparent joy at the family reunion. "Your company has been making waves," my father commented during dinner. "Always knew you had a good head for business, just needed to find your niche." This revisionist history was jarring, but I bit my tongue. Perhaps people could change. Perhaps bridges could be rebuilt. After dessert, my father suggested we talk shop in his study, a room that had previously been off limits unless summoned for discipline. Jackson, Abigail, and my mother joined us, creating an uncomfortable feeling of being outnumbered. "Son, we have given this a lot of thought." My father began pulling out a folder of documents. "The family has always been strongest when working together. We want to propose a partnership." The partnership quickly revealed itself as a thinly veiled takeover attempt. The legal documents proposed establishing a family investment trust that would acquire a controlling interest in my company. In exchange, I would receive a minority stake in the struggling family construction business. "This way we all win," my father explained as if he were being generous. "The family name becomes associated with your success, and you gain the stability of our established business." As I flipped through the documents, the true picture emerged. My family was drowning financially. The construction company had accumulated massive debt. Jackson's failed investments had depleted their reserves. They had remortgaged their house to stay afloat. "There is something else we should discuss," my father added, his tone shifting. "That new house of yours." My blood ran cold. "What about my house?" "Well, technically, your success stemmed from family support. Your education, your upbringing, all investments we made in you. That house represents fruits of family contribution and should rightfully be considered a family asset." I stared in disbelief. "You kicked me out. I built everything myself without a penny from any of you." "We have already told the Robertsons that we are partners in your company," my mother interjected, as if this settled the matter. "It would be embarrassing to correct that now." Abigail, looking uncomfortable, finally spoke up. "Lucian, we have been planning this since we saw that magazine article. We just want what is best for everyone." The final blow came when my father revealed they had already approached several of my clients representing themselves as affiliated with my company. "We were just preparing the ground," Jackson explained smoothly. "Most of them seemed quite receptive to the family business angle. People trust multi-generational enterprises." When I stood to leave, my father's mask of affection dropped entirely. "You were nothing before us, and you will be nothing without us. This can go easily, or it can go hard. Your choice." I walked out without another word, the true magnitude of their betrayal only beginning to sink in. The drive home passed in a blur. I pulled over twice to vomit on the side of the road, my body physically rejecting the manipulation I had endured. When I finally reached home, I collapsed on my front steps, unable to even make it inside. That is where Sophia found me an hour later, still sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. She had been right all along, and the realization of how deeply my family was willing to hurt me had shattered something fundamental in my understanding of the world. "They want to take everything," I whispered as she sat beside me. "The company, the house, like I am just an extension of them to be used however they want." That night, between bouts of rage and devastation, Sophia helped me document everything. Every text message, every visit, every suspicious contact with my clients. Her background in cybersecurity made her methodical and thorough. "They have been planning this for months," she observed, creating a timeline of events. The reconciliation was never genuine. Early the next morning, I called Amanda Chen, a cutthroat business attorney I had met at a tech conference. She arrived at my house within 2 hours, reviewing our evidence with growing concern. "They have no legal claim to your company or property," she assured me. "But they have potentially committed business interference and fraud by misrepresenting themselves to your clients." Amanda's investigation revealed the true extent of my family's desperation. The construction company was 3 months from bankruptcy. Jackson had lost their retirement savings in a series of questionable investments. They needed a lifeline, and I was the most convenient option. With Amanda's guidance, I took immediate action. First, a formal cease and desist letter to my family, prohibiting any contact with my business associates. Next, security upgrades at both home and office, new locks, camera systems, enhanced protocols for visitor verification. Most painful was the round of calls I made personally to every client, clarifying that my family had no association with Next Gen Solutions and apologizing for any confusion. Most were understanding, even sympathetic, but the humiliation burned deeply. 2 days later, my father and Jackson appeared at my front door, unannounced. Security cameras captured their arrival in my father's truck, both men looking thunderous as they pounded on my door. "We know you are in there," my father shouted. "You cannot hide from family obligations." I opened the door, but remained in the threshold blocking entry. "There is nothing to discuss. Please leave my property." "Your property," Jackson scoffed. "You would have nothing without the advantages we gave you." "What advantages?" "The constant criticism, the ultimatums, being thrown out on my birthday." My voice remained calm, even as neighbors began peeking out their windows at the commotion. My father stepped closer, finger jabbing toward my chest. "Everything you know we taught you. Everything you are comes from us." "No," I replied, feeling a strange clarity. "You threw me away on my birthday. You do not get to claim me now." When they refused to leave, continuing to shout accusations and demands, I did something I never imagined doing. I called the police. As officers escorted them from my property, my father turned with a final threat. "This is not over." He meant it. That night, security cameras caught them attempting to access my backyard, presumably looking for another way into the house. The footage provided the evidence needed for a temporary restraining order, which Amanda filed the next morning. At work, I called an all-hands meeting to transparently address the situation, standing before 50 employees who depended on the company for their livelihoods. I felt responsible for the chaos my family had created. Some of you may have received strange calls or emails. I began my throat tight. My estranged family has been falsely claiming association with our company. I want to assure you that NextGen remains stable and independent. Instead of undermining confidence, my transparency strengthened company culture. Employees appreciated the honesty and rallied around protecting our work. We implemented new security protocols for intellectual property, conducted a thorough audit of all systems Jackson might have accessed during his office visit, and created clear policies for handling external inquiries. Remarkably, the business not only survived the crisis, but thrived. Several clients expressed increased confidence after seeing how professionally we managed the situation. Within months, we expanded into 2 new healthcare markets, turning a potential disaster into unexpected growth. The professional recovery came more easily than the personal healing. Despite the restraining order and clear evidence of their malicious intent, I struggled with guilt about cutting off my family permanently. They are objectively toxic, I told my therapist during an emergency session. So why do I still feel like the bad guy? Because they programmed you to be the family shock absorber, she explained. To take responsibility for their emotional well-being, regardless of how they treat you. That programming does not disappear overnight. I joined a support group for adults estranged from family, finding solace in stories that paralleled my own. Learning about concepts like emotional blackmail, narcissistic family systems, and parentification gave me a framework to understand my experience. Real family cherishes your independence, said one group member who had been estranged from his parents for 20 years. They do not see your success as something to exploit. Small acts of self-care became my daily ritual. Morning runs through my neighborhood, claiming the territory as truly mine. Cooking elaborate meals in the kitchen they had tried to take from me, hanging art that reflected my taste rather than family-approved styles. Through it all, Sophia remained my rock. 6 months after the confrontation on a quiet evening at home, she proposed with characteristic directness. "I love you," she said, simply holding out a ring. "Life is unpredictable and sometimes awful, but I want to face it with you. We can build something better than what you came from." We began planning a small wedding, creating guest lists filled with people who had earned their place in our lives, rather than claiming it through genetics. 1 year after the family confrontation, we moved into a new house with enhanced security features, leaving no forwarding address in public records. The company continued to expand, now employing over 100 people, and guided by core values of integrity and transparency, the antithesis of my family's approach to business. On quiet evenings, sitting on our porch with Sophia and watching the sunset, I often reflected on the strange journey that brought me here. The family that abandoned me had inadvertently given me the one gift I needed most. The chance to discover my true worth existed independently of their approval. The house we build ourselves will always be stronger than the one others try to force us into, I told a gathering of friends celebrating our housewarming. And the family we choose will always love us more authentically than those who only see us as extensions of themselves. Looking around at the faces of people who chose to be in my life, Zach and Amara, from those early startup days, neighbors who had witnessed my stand against my father therapy, group members who understood the journey, and Sophia who loved me without conditions, I finally felt completely secure in who I was and what I had built. The painful birthday that ended one chapter of my life had ultimately opened the door to something far more genuine. In losing a toxic family, I had gained a real one. Have you ever had to rebuild your life from scratch after someone you trusted betrayed you? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more real-life experiences. And if you know someone who might be struggling with family boundaries, share this video with them so they know they are not alone. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that sometimes the family we create ourselves is more valuable than the one we were born into.